End of January 2020, we flew to the USA again to explore the west of the USA and picked up our fifth wheel and pickup truck in Florida. The idea of this road trip was to explore some cities on the west coast, like San Diego, Los Angeles, San Francisco, and see some nice places as well. Because of the winter time, we stayed as south as possible and planned to go straight on to San Diego. We passed Alabama and Mississippi and then found a nice campground in Livingston, in Louisiana.
From Livingston we went to New Orleans and saw the Mississippi River and the French Quarter. Bourbon Street was busy and cozy. It looked like this was a 24/7 area for nightlife. Our next campground was in Beaumont in Texas, and from there we visited Nederland, a small town settled by Dutch immigrants in 1897. The NASA Space Center in Houston was a must-see as well, different from Kennedy Space Center in Florida, but still worthwhile to visit.
San Antonio, with the Riverwalk and the Alamo, was a very beautiful place to visit as well. Cozy restaurants along the river, and the Alamo, a fortress where so many battles for the freedom of Texas were fought, were a surprise for us. doing 3 stops and campgrounds in Texas, we entered New Mexico and stopped in Las Cruces. From there we went to White Sands National Monument. Next day we drove to the so-called dripping springs, which were not really dripping during our stay. Because this day was President's Day, the entry was free.
Due to some technical issues with our fifth wheel, we stopped at Camping World in Tucson. From there we drove with our truck to Mount Lemmon. The difference in temperature and landscape between the valleys downhill and the ski areas on top of the mountains was astonishing.
Although not all the issues with the camper were solved, we decided to continue our trip to San Diego in California. There we met Carmi, who studied international tourism and was coincidentally in San Diego for her internship. She really showed us the most beautiful places, like the Old Town, Seaport. We saw the Gaslamp Quarter and Little Italy. few days we explored San Diego by bike and went, for instance, to La Jolla. We were really impressed by the beauty and cleanliness of the city. Another day we hiked to Mount Woodson Trail and climbed the Potato Chip Rock, and of course we made the typical tourist pictures as well.
After 8 days in San Diego, we moved on to Palm Springs. We hiked in the area of Agua Caliente Taquiz, where we saw our first wild animal, a rosy boa snake. The next day we drove to Joshua Tree Park, our first national park where we could use our annual US Park Pass. In this park there's one side where you can find nice spots with the Joshua trees, and another side the cholla cactus. In Acton we took the train to LA. Los Angeles has a very wide area and we had to make a decision which areas we want to see most. Starting at the Grand Central Market, we walked the Walk of Fame on Hollywood Boulevard. The Santa Monica Pier is a must-see as well. Crowded and a bit expensive, but nice to see. The next campground was Santanella, from where we traveled to San Francisco. We could park our car at a Walmart parking lot. The trip with a traditional San Francisco old cable car was very nice to do. At Fisherman's Wharf, we walked Pier 39, where the sea lions are sunbathing. From there, you could see the Alcatraz fortress.
We hired some bikes to drive over the Golden Gate Bridge. It was a very special feeling to bike over this bridge because we had seen this bridge so many times on TV. Another stop was Lombard Street. This street is famous for the steep 8 hairpin turns.
With an old streetcar we went to Castro, the first gay neighborhood with Twin Peaks, the first gay bar with windows. This area is well known of the film Milk, which was made in 2008. Although not doable with our fifth wheel, the Highway 1 is a route we wanted to see. From our campground it was a 120 miles drive to start in Monterey. We drove all the way to Morro Bay and from there we took the inland route back to Santanella. In total we drove more than 500 miles that day.